First up today to our speakers is Benjamin Orgel, asset manager from Tower Ventures. Benjamin.
Thank you, Eric, for the introduction. I'd also like to thank Natalie Van Gundy, who probably had to put up with 5 or 6 of the same emails from me because I'm technologically challenged and sent this like 6 different times. And the video I play later didn't work. I'd also like to thank the Daily Memphian for inviting me here today. It's truly an honor to be in front of all of you to discuss the progress our amazing city's making. I'm a born and raised Memphian who went to the University of Texas for 4 years and then moved here the day I graduated. The reason I moved back to Memphis was first, I saw a small amount of momentum going on in our city and with potential for a lot more progress. And second, my team was starting to work on the redevelopment of the Tennessee Brewery. To steer our wonderful and newly re-elected mayor, Jim Strickland's line, Memphis has momentum. One of the things I love most about Memphis is the development community. Whether it is for-profit or non-profit, like we have on this panel today, we all work together. And that is very unusual for a city, and Memphis excels in this. I want to discuss 4 different projects with you today. It's correct, thank you. The first project I want to discuss is the Fedex Logistics Headquarters, which is located right across from the FedEx Forum. I see some representatives from the Grizzlies here today, and Beale Street. This is the former Gibson Guitar Factory, and in conversation, I always have trouble. It's taken me probably a year to quit calling it the Gibson Guitar Factory and finally naming it the FedEx Logistics Headquarters. What started as a discussion to bring 50 jobs from FedEx Logistics to downtown turned quickly into a large relocation and a global home for FedEx Logistics and 700 employees. This is a 195,000 square foot renovation, and there will be $35 million worth of improvements to the building. We are currently under construction and plan to move 700 employees to the heart of our downtown in Q2 of 2020. If you would have asked me 5 years ago that FedEx, Service Master, Indigo Ag, and AutoZone would be expanding in downtown Memphis, and one of the companies, I forget which company spoke today that they're moving to Memphis, I would have called you crazy. We have a local team helping us with design and a local team also as our contractor, and that's LRK, which I see a representative from LRK over here, and Tabor Grinder as our contractor. This was one of the most fun deals I've ever worked on, and for those of you who followed the news stories, and I know the Daily Memphian did, it was definitely the most stressful deal I've ever worked on. I'd like to thank Richard Smith, FedEx Logistics, and our partners, Samara Road out in New York City, for being great partners and having great vision for our wonderful city of Memphis. It's amazing to see how outside investors are starting to invest in Memphis. This proves that we have momentum going on. Next slide, please. I think we missed a slide. There. Thank you. I told her I didn't want to do it because I'd mess it up even more. Moving across the street to the south of FedEx Logistics, as you see in the right corner of the screen, we have the Clipper. This is approximately 320,000 square feet of new Class A office space, and we'll have approximately 20,000 square feet of retail and restaurant space. Our plan is to be under construction on this project in 2020. The other half of the lot, where you see a park now, we're calling Phase 2. I know it's creative. And Phase 2, we're currently working with our partners, Samara Road in New York City, to determine what the best use for this property is. I want to tell a funny little story about the name of the Clipper, and I also want to set the record straight since we have media here. And so I usually don't do this, but when an article is written about a development we are working on, I always read the article, but I never go to the comments because, as people in this room see, comments are usually not positive on an open platform. And for whatever reason, I decided to read the Daily Memphian's article that day, and everyone was just bashing us. How dare these people name the Clipper after the Los Angeles Clippers? And when I tell you, there probably were 10 or 15 comments, and I laugh, that's why I don't read it. But just to set the record straight, the Clipper has nothing to do with the Los Angeles Clippers, I promise. Fred Smith had a quote that the Fedex is the Clipper ship of the computer era, and that's where we got the name the Clipper, for the record. My next project, as you can see, is very beautiful right now. We're renting apartments. This is 99105 South Main, and this is located on Front Street, right on the bluff with river views, right next to AutoZone's headquarters, and right near the future downtown Brooks Museum, which we're standing in today. And I believe someone on this panel today also lives near here and is very excited about this project. This building was built in 1905 and was the former butcher shop and pier restaurant. This building was going to fall down, and thanks to the Downtown Memphis Commission and a grant they were able to give us, we were able to purchase and stabilize this building, and currently we're working on replacing the roof. And we have the president of the DMC here today. Thank you very much. And coincidentally, one of my partners on this project, Adam Slovis, is giving a blight tour to the Downtown Commission as we speak. So as you can see, this definitely fits blight. And I want to tell a quick little story about how we were able to purchase this building. We've been chasing this building for years and years. And Adam Slovis, my partner, unfortunately was in New York for his wife's father's funeral. And he was sitting at the funeral, and he was talking to his wife's family's accountant. And the accountant mentioned, hey, I have a client that has property in Memphis. And they talked for about 2 or 3 minutes. And it turns out it was the person who owned this that we've been chasing for probably 2 to 3 years. And because of that, we were able to establish a relationship with them, and we're to buy the building for a mutually agreeable price that worked for both sides. And that's how this deal came together. And just so you know, for anyone in this room, my team, we like to buy anything that's falling down or that someone else wants to tear down. So if anyone has something to sell, I'm sure we'll buy it. We're looking to develop this into 112 multifamily units with commercial and retail space. So while I talk, I want to show you this. I'm going to talk during this video, but this is what we call the snuff district. And I believe Fleming mentioned this earlier. And this shows what it looks like today and what our vision at the moment is for the future. We've acquired approximately 55 acres of land. My partners, Adam Slovis, Tom Marsh, Billy Orgel, Jay Lindy, Michael McLaughlin, and I have been working on this project for well over 3 years. I'm sure Fleming wants to kill us from all the meetings we've had. This is going to be a major mixed-use project. In the first phase will be an event space in a 30,000 square foot warehouse. If anyone needs a wedding or corporate event soon, we'll have a place for you shortly. Also in the first phase will be this warehouse on the left is going to be our first phase, and this was the old Conwood Snuff Factory. This snuff factory is going to be turned into 220 multifamily units. The second phase, we're working with office tenants, potential hotel tenants, and once we're able to establish density in this area, we'd like to have retail and restaurant space. And then we have a third phase, which you can see we have riverfront property. We would like to do single family here as well. So we want to do a major mixed use project that all of Memphis is proud of. We'd like to continue all the momentum in downtown Memphis with the Pinch District, the St. Jude expansion, and the renovation of the convention center. We're also excited about our new beer drinking neighbors, Grind City Brewery and Soul and Spirits Brewery, that will be opening right next to our neighborhood. Before I close, I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone in this room for helping in making Memphis a better place to live. I see a lot of personal friends, and I see a lot of business friends in this room today who are doing amazing projects, including the people that are on the panel with me today, Gary and Carol. If we keep the momentum investments going like this, if we keep the momentum investments going like we've had since our return from college, I have no doubt with the people in this room, we will be able to change Memphis for generations to come. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to answering your questions in the Q&A session.
Carol Coletta is president of the Memphis River Parks Partnership.
Benjamin, I just want to say, if the worst it gets for you online is someone worried about the name of the Clipper, maybe we should change jobs. I'll take yours, you can take mine. Look, people have always been drawn to the water. That's why cities everywhere are reclaiming and reimagining their long-ignored riverfronts. You see cities like Philadelphia, cities like Pittsburgh, Chicago, fabulous. How many of you have been to the Chicago riverfront? It's incredible. Detroit, the first move Detroit made in its remarkable revitalization was a big investment on its riverfront and this transformation. Doesn't look like what you'd think Detroit looks like. And then closer to home, Nashville and Chattanooga. And then there is Memphis, a city on the storied Mississippi at its widest and wildest, a city whose riverfront doesn't require expensive remediation like most of them do, and a city with a riverfront that we already own. It's already public land. We don't have to go buy it. It's a great river with a spectacular opportunity to create what I believe can be the best riverfront in America. Now, there are some challenges. Even when land was created on the riverfront, valuable land, the city didn't do much with it. I think this is Henry Turley's favorite picture, the people huddled under the one tree. There's a very fast road, as you know, that separates downtown and the river, thus isolating the riverfront. We've got a steep bluff that's hard for a lot of people to negotiate. I watch them do it every day. And like downtown, the riverfront is very linear. And until recently, it was really fragmented. So to tackle these challenges 2 years ago, something called the riverfront concept was produced. It laid out this extraordinary opportunity across 6 miles of riverfront, drawing on all previous plans that had been done over the past 100 years. Yes, we have 100 years of riverfront plans. First one was done in 1924. There's a lot in this document. It's online. I hope you'll read it. But it urges us to connect the riverfront north to south and east to west, back to downtown. Use those connections to catalyze the city's reputation, investment in adjacent neighborhoods like you're seeing Benjamin do, and equitable investment in people and firms. And then also, of course, to make it fun. We think of it as 6 miles, 5 park districts, and 1 Memphis. Now, in the past year, and with the help of the Hyde Family Foundation, we completed a connected bike ped trail along the riverfront, the River Line, that was this vital missing link between Wolf River Greenway on the north, once that gets completed, and then the riverfront, and then on to Big River Crossing and across to the trails in Arkansas. You get all that joined up, and it's really going to be an incredible resource for Memphis. In fact, there are a group of us meeting who work on outdoor stuff, and we're all determined we're going to make Memphis the place that appears on the cover of Outdoor Magazine as best outdoor place in the country, and I think we can get there. River Garden, our little park on Wolf River Harbor, opened last November. It was sort of an instant hit. and it created a destination on the north end of the cobblestones that we did not have. And I tell you what, it has changed the patterns of movement all over our riverfront. Mud Island is now free. Its rules are relaxed. You can bring a dog. You can bring a picnic basket. You can scoot. You can bike. You can move around in the way you want to move around. The Memphis sign was the most Instagram site in Memphis. That went out to the tip. Oh, we also learned people will walk to the tip of Mud Island. If there's something over there. We also found out people will actually walk to Mud Island on the pedestrian bridge. You know, when you have lemons, you make lemonade. Now, here's a place we haven't done so well yet. We've made some tentative moves to slow expressway speed traffic on Riverside Drive to get that connection between the riverfront and downtown right, but that's mostly failed to date. You really better not use that crossing. You know, it says pedestrian crossing. Well, be careful. I would say engage the eyes of the driver before you step out there. But this is one, I just want to say, I know there's been a lot of controversy about this, but this is one that if we don't get right, if we don't find a way to slow that traffic down, the riverfront will continue to be isolated in a way it should not be. But physical connections are really, they're wildly important, but it's not enough. We also are working on making social connections among Memphians and trying to establish the riverfront as common ground through a very active set of programs that have been bringing people together across demographics, income, race, age. Let me tell you something, that is probably the single hardest thing we do. And we're intentional about it. So we made some modest moves today, but even the modest moves have produced a good bit of national recognition for Memphis, and we're really pleased for that. And we see what it can be once we finish this thing. In fact, once we do all that we expect to do, nationally recognized HRNA advisors projects an economic impact of $1.1 billion in the first decade. And so we have to make it connected, we have to make it catalytic, and we also have to make it fun. We have to remember in Memphis, as we're making this riverfront may be the only vacation some Memphians ever get. It may be the only place where some of us who don't own boats will ever get on a big body of water. And it may very well be, and this is something we think a lot about, it may be our only opportunity we have as a city, maybe outside of sports, to create familiarity, empathy, and solidarity with people who don't look like us, who live lives very different than our own. But it's a lot of riverfront, but you can't swallow an elephant in one big piece. You got to take it in bites, and that's the way we're approaching the riverfront. Given we have 6 miles to work with, where do we invest to get the biggest leverage for downtown and for the city at large? Well, with Riverline and River Garden complete, restoration of the 6 blocks of historic cobblestone landing funded and expected to begin early next year. We expect January start. And a light touch remake of the former Confederate Park, Memphis Park now. It's expected to start any day. The answer to what's next was really clear. The answer is what's next is Tom Lee Park. It is arguably the most visible piece of real estate in town. It is adjacent to downtown, to the core downtown. It's the riverfront park that can be made most accessible, and therefore I think has the most potential to catalyze additional economic impact. And today, Tom Lee Park grossly underperforms as a park. It's not a park that Memphians, it's not a park, and I think park, not what happens in the park, it's not a park that Memphians are particularly proud of, nor should we be. On most days, you pass by Tom Lee Park and it sort of telegraphs this idea that Memphis is a sleepy river town. Now, that's not good enough for an ambitious city. We've been talking about momentum, we indeed have it. We need to telegraph ambition and momentum right there on our riverfront. We have the most impressive river. There's no reason we shouldn't have the most impressive riverfront. Now, most of you have seen images of the various elements of, that are anticipated for the park, but the images just don't do justice to its potential. I know most of you in this room have been to spectacular waterfront parks, and you know what they do for cities. You know what magnets they are for those cities. And, you know, any city, but most especially ours, that leaves an unmatched asset like our riverfront under-imagined and underperforming is just not trying. Now, like Benjamin, I'm a proud native Memphian. Like Elijah Strait, I'm from South Memphis. And every time I see yet another city remake its riverfront, I get mad. I get competitive. And I hope you do too. I hate to be told that Memphis, oh, it's Memphis, we can't do X. Well, we can make this happen in Memphis. There have been a lot of distractions in the last 8 months. And, you know, they slowed us down a little, but that's okay. That just makes the project better. And I will tell you that bold public projects are always, always controversial until the day after they open. Just ask Bob Corker, who was mayor when Chattanooga did its riverfront. Brooklyn Bridge Park had to fight off 4 lawsuits from nearby residents. Rudy Giuliani tried to tear down what became the High Line. He hated it. Chicago Tribune gave the city of Chicago and Mayor Daley hell for Millennium Park. Rahm Emanuel took almost as much grief when he expanded the Chicago riverfront. Greenville, South Carolina Mayor Knox White, been mayor forever, he said, I never had 51% of the people of Greenville supportive of Reedy Falls Park, if you've seen it, magnificent, created all kinds of surrounding development, until after we opened the park. So look, controversy and fear of change come with the territory. To date, we've raised $40 million of a $60 million goal, and if you think $60 million is expensive for a 31-acre signature park, I want you to compare that to what other cities have spent on their parks. $2 million an acre is a bargain for a signature waterfront park. Our hope still is to get this park started in June of next year. I think Chris Harrington made a great case for Tom Lee Park and the Daily Memphian when he said, we call it Tom Lee Park, but for decades now it's been treated not as a park, but as a little-used event venue like a Liberty Bowl West. Its role is to host a couple of festivals for a few days each May and otherwise to simply sit ready and largely empty, and too many can't or won't imagine more. Chris McCoy reinforced that this month in Memphis Magazine when he compared our riverfront to the riverfront in Chattanooga. Now, in Chris's view, we are still aspiring to do what Chattanooga has done. That is not a comparison I expected to be made in 2019 when we did the first events, the world's largest ice cream sundae with Rick Dees in Tom Lee Park 40 plus years ago. I didn't think I was going to be arguing. I was going to argue about Memphis versus Chattanooga. Look, fortunately, our riverfront is something we all own together, and it's going to take all of us working together to get it done. We have a rare opportunity right now to create a legacy for the next 100 years on our riverfront, and I hope you will be part of making that happen. Thanks.
Gary Prosterman, who's standing right next to me, is the president of Development Services Group. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate everything the Daily Memphian has done. We're subscribers and enjoy it very much. I encourage anybody who's not to do so. I am a 4th generation Memphian. My great-grandfather came upriver from New Orleans in the 1800s. And my family actually lived downtown until the 1950s in what is now, was in the Hotel Tennessee, what is now the Doubletree Hotel, and about to be converted again into some other upscale hotel. So I'm kind of Benjamin's the young version, I'm the old version. I started my own development company when I was 28 years old in 1987. And what our firm has done and what I hope to offer today is really a perspective that's really developed from working all over the United States. Our firm, established in 1987, has done over 70 projects throughout the country. And beginning in early 2000, we really shifted our focus to working almost exclusively in urban cores around the U.S. A primary focus of even that niche was doing adaptive reuse of historic buildings. We continued to do that, and we are still very active doing that today. So some of these projects you'll see, this is a federal courthouse we redid in Tampa, Florida. We did projects in Philadelphia, Atlanta, Houston. We did the development of the Chiska here in Memphis. And I think that what we hope to do is bring some of the perspective of what we've seen has worked really well in other cities that we can also bring to what we do in Memphis. And so while probably 75% of what we are still doing is outside of Memphis, we really are thrilled and honored and hope to bring part of what we learned to make our Memphis projects that much better. One of the things that we did learn, and I know Carol has spoken on this many, many times, is the importance of an urban core to any city. It's what really makes a city thrive as a city, is how you treat your urban core. And the importance of that is that Memphis, like every other city, competes for talent. We compete for businesses. And in order to do that, you have to have desirable places that people want to live. You have to be a magnet that attracts that talent. And it really is, real estate is more of an ecosystem. We've got to have, you hear, it's a little bit overused, but the live, work, and play. But you really do need all three components. And it's good to see that the development community is really factoring that in more and more, even here in Memphis. The other thing that's happened, and this is started in our gateway cities, as things often do, but it's happening now in every second and third tier city in the country, is something that we call the great inversion. What that is about is that the demographics have changed so much since I was growing up. Baby boomers, at the time that baby boomers were at their peak, 50% of American households were raising children. So keep that in your mind. Today, it's 25%. So it's totally shifted. Now at the same time, we boomers, our kids have grown and our nest is empty. So you have this massive demographic inversion that is creating a lot of what the attraction and appeal is that's occurring throughout the United States with the explosion of development in urban cores. The demographic inversion probably benefits the urban core more so than the suburbs, because people want the walkable city where they can, again, have all the live, work, play components. From working around the United States and working when I get the opportunity in my hometown, I can share with you at least my view of what cities win and why they win. I think the first thing we have to remember, I hope this doesn't sound too trite, is that cities are about people and not buildings. So you can't love the neighborhood if you don't love the neighbors. And I think we have to keep that at the forefront. Great cities, like great wine, have to express their individuality. Cities are diverse as their citizenry. To succeed, we need to express our own essential and unique character. In Memphis, we've done really well at embracing our grit and grind, and shout out, of course, to the Gridleys for coming up with that. But we've embraced that as a community, and that really does speak to what Memphis is. People in general want to live in a city where the civic aspirations match their personal aspirations. You can't have a life sciences industry without having life scientists in your community. So to attract these talented and ambitious people, we have to have civic goals that match these aspirations. The cities I've observed that are most successful have done a great job integrating the educational community with the commercial and industrial community. And we're getting better at that in Memphis. I was really encouraged last week where I saw the manufacturers symposium where they were bringing high school kids in. And we've got to get a lot better. You know, we target what industries we're really good at: distribution, ag tech, medical technology, and we gear our educational systems to make sure we're filling in those jobs. We don't have to try to beat cities at their game. We have to just be really good at developing our own game. I think that Memphis is, we're hot. We're hot. We've got this great show on NBC that's like an ad every week. We've got the Grizzlies. We've got the Memphis basketball. We're the home of the birthplace of the blues and rock and roll. We've got Graceland. We've got a great entertainment district. The but for is we don't even talk about what are our greatest assets from a real estate development perspective that maybe the general population doesn't think about. But I will tell you what those are. It's the fact that we have this great river as a transportation mode. It's the fact that we have the convergence of I-55 and I-40. It's the fact that we have 6 Class I railroads coming through this city. It's the fact that we have a world-class airport in Fedex. It's the fact that we have 3 Fortune 500 companies in our hometown as headquarters. There's not a single city in Florida that has that. It's the fact that we have loads of regional headquarters of companies throughout the United States here in Memphis. I think that for whatever reason, some people had an inferiority complex about Memphis, but I will tell you, I think that's passed. Having grown up here and been here for both the good times, the lean times, and now what I believe are the best of times, I do think we're finally over that. We do think that Memphis' best days have yet to be written, and it's why we chose to make such a huge financial commitment in the Edge. So we'll talk about the Edge now instead of just the Memphis in general. Beginning in 2014, we began very quietly acquiring a number of parcels in what really was in essence an abandoned area of Memphis. But in our mind, it was very strategically located right between what is downtown Memphis and the medical district. We believe it really is a bullseye, and we quietly acquired 12, 13 parcels and about 11 acres, really over a 2-year period. Our initial vision was that we felt like the Edge could be, on its own scale and in its own way, a version of what the Gulch became in Nashville. And if you think about the similarities, theirs is the same thing. It's just one side of downtown and the other side of their medical campus and the Vanderbilt campus. In our case, between our medical district and our downtown. The Edge has, without even having to try, what you always look for in these real estate developments, and that's this very unique combination of live, work, and play. And we've been so fortunate that we've been able to already attract and execute on the work component with the relocation of Orion and their headquarters. And their facility is spectacular, world-class. I can say that because we didn't actually develop it. They did it themselves, because there's no way we could have afforded to do what they did for those headquarters. If you haven't toured it, try to get a tour. It's absolutely spectacular. The Edge, when we looked at it, was pretty obvious to us. It was sort of the hole in the donut between downtown and the medical district. And there were so many great things that had been announced at that time, primarily in the medical district. When we started acquiring this property in 2014, it was before any of these things were happening downtown. It was before Service Master. It was certainly before Indigo Ag. It was before FedEx. It was before all of these things. So we took a bit of a leap of faith. But for us, what was obvious to us is just simply the data. We're very data-driven, that between the medical district and downtown, there are 81,000 employees. That's a lot of people. And our housing stock was very, somewhat limited. There are also approximately 10,000 students between all the different nursing schools, medical school, dental schools, et cetera, that we have in our medical district. Our medical district is definitely one of our city's greatest assets that probably doesn't receive the recognition it deserves. But if you work around the country as we do, it's so obvious what it offers. And I will tell you that we're really fortunate right now in the leadership of Tommy Pacello, the continuity that he has brought to the medical district and the strides that they are making. And then you factor in the St. Jude and the literally billions of dollars that they invest, not to mention the lives that they change. It's just, it's mind-blowing, and everybody here should be really proud and prideful of what we accomplish in our medical district. The original concept that we had for the Edge was a live, work, play community, and we've been fortunate that we've been able to actually accomplish that. I don't know if many of you have driven by there lately, because we've taken our time and gone about this really in a quiet, methodical fashion. But what has happened is now we have Orion open. We have other companies. Leo Events has moved their headquarters there. Montgomery Martin Construction has put an office down there. And we've built a parking garage for 480 cars. So we're very hopeful. But that's to serve the apartments that we're developing of approximately 200 apartment units, along with serving Orion headquarters, as well as the retail components and the parks that are going to be part of what we're doing in the Edge. The next phase for us is what we call the Cycle Shop, and it will be a mixed use that'll have retail on the ground floor. It will have offices on the second floor. And I think what people are really excited about, and probably something we're also most excited about, is we're going to start work on the Ravine Park. That is going to be an underground park that is goes under Monroe. It'll begin really where Marshall begins on the north end and end on Union Avenue. And it's very hard for people to visualize. I didn't know it existed until I actually walked it myself. What it is, it was an abandoned railway easement that ran from those areas, and we're turning it into a park. It's a public-private partnership with the Downtown Memphis Commission, and we were very excited to recently announce that Memphis Made Brewery is going to start construction very soon at what will be the northern end of that park, and it will go underground and eventually end up on Union Avenue, if those of you who know it, at the old J. Atkins Gallery, which will also be a great restaurant and venue at some point. So we are absolutely thrilled to be a part of our hometown development. We're thrilled to be able to do a true mixed-use project and really bring alive these components of live, work, and play.
I guess one question for everybody, and I know we'll do Q&A, and we'll get to that, but I want to do a couple questions first. And I'll start just with you, Benjamin. Why now? What is the thing that is happening right now that has made this possible?
I think you could start with everybody in this room, and just from starting with next to me, Carol, what she's doing at the River Park and her team. I see some of her team up front. That I live downtown and I live on the riverfront, so once again I'm biased, but I travel. I'm lucky to travel a lot for work and pleasure, and when I go to every big city, the first thing I do is go to where the water is and go to the parks, and I think that is very important for the city. So thank you for that. And then
Thanks, Benjamin.
Gary, just to give an example, the last picture you showed of the ravine, I mean, that's, if I was on vacation or if I lived in Memphis, that'd be the first place I hang out. And so I think the answer to your question is, one, I see a lot of people in this room who improve Memphis, and that's why now. That's why Memphis is hot right now.
I'm going to ask you the same question, Carol. Not so much why the river right now, because that's a different question. We'll kind of get into that. But why, from your point of view, this development and this, I mean, why is the money suddenly here? Why is the sort of risk, it's not so risky? I mean, what from your point of view has come together that said, not so risky? Gary's over there smiling. It's risk. Come on, there's risk. Risk reward. From a development point of view, not so much why the river right now, because that's a different question.
I got that. You know, it feels to me like first of all, echo what Benjamin said, but beyond that, I think Memphis has been generally overlooked. And I think one of the reasons Memphis has been overlooked is because it's a predominantly black city in a predominantly black county in a metro area that where the largest racial demographic is African American. And unfortunately in America, black people, black neighborhoods, black businesses are still undervalued. I think America has a hard time crafting a narrative around blackness. And I say that in that, you know, it's who we are. Gary did a great job of talking about the ways Memphis is distinctive. That is another way we are distinctive. And I think the sooner we sort of lean in and embrace that and capitalize on that difference, I think the stronger our city will be. And so being overlooked for a long time, I think, has left opportunity, and these guys and you in this room are seizing on that opportunity, along with a lot of out-of-town investors.
Same question to you. What was for Gary? I mean, you all did a lot of work, and you still do a lot of work. You said I think 70% outside the city. But why? What happened that it suddenly became possible to do these big and small projects?
Well, I think that Memphis. I mean, I've grown up here and lived here all my life. I do think as a community we've just gotten better. I think that specific to the projects that we've been involved in, which are One Commerce Square, the redo of the Chiska, and now the Edge, we were willing to be the pioneer. The Chiska was, you know, it was scary. It was. For those that walked past the Chiska, it was a great haunted house at Halloween. Other than that, you didn't want to go near there. You know, I will tell you from I know I'm not necessarily answering your question, but
I'm used to it.
It's been very helpful for me to develop around other parts of the country. It changes your perspective. It widens your horizons. And so you go, gosh, just think if the Chiska were not dark, how it's going to open up so much of what's going to happen there. And, you know, fortunately we were able to convince partners to do that with us. So I'm not necessarily answering your question.
No, you are actually.
But I think that the other thing is just the macro economy has gotten better around the whole United States.
Yeah.
But I think Memphis is over its inferiority complex.
Yeah. One more thing on this theme. Is it also just success, you know, begetting success? So your family was involved with the Tennessee Brewery, which, you know, I can remember not that long ago is when are we going to tear it down? Suddenly not only gets built, not only does the money come in to do it, but it fills up, right? And then Crosstown happens. And same with the public projects. The Green Line begets Shelby Farms, begets rebirth of Overton Park and the riverfront, right? I mean, is that part of it that you can go back to outside money and say, hey, this project actually works, so here's the next one?
Absolutely. No, success definitely begets success.
Yeah.
And the trends that I mentioned are an important part of it. The fact is that a developer can't just develop because they want to. Banks won't let them. A developer can only develop if the project makes sense. And so our city is doing great. That's why the projects make sense. And we've got to continue to, you know, I say this to all my development friends, and we are fortunate in Memphis that, you know, it's an ecosystem. You know, we've got to have all the components. We've got to have jobs first, then the apartments, and then the play. You know, live, work, play sounds great, but it has to begin with the work. So long as we maintain that balance, everybody's going to do well. But it's the job engines that we're fortunate to have in Memphis that make all this work.
Yeah. All right. Questions from here. And one quick question I have is how many people have questions about specific issues about the riverfront and the mediation and so on that's been going on? People who do. I'm going to do a quick speed round of some of the questions that I get asked most often. I'm not trying to cut you off, but they're quick, kind of to the degree possible, Carol. We'll just kind of walk through some of the stuff that does appear in our comments. I love the shout out on that. I have a love-hate relationship with our comments as well. They did give me delete authority and ban authority recently, which is awesome. That's really cool. Love that. That we also have this thing called shadow. I don't know everybody who's in the room because, you know, I don't want people, but we have this thing called shadow banning, where you basically ban you hide the comments from everyone except the person doing the commenting, so they can just comment to themselves and, you know, rant and rave. It is literally one of the most beautiful things in the world to shadow ban someone. We have so much fun when we shadow ban people. Oh, go ahead and say your stuff. Okay, so let's just go through a few things that commonly come up that people that we get in comments or we get that come up and have been asked. And the mediation is still going on. So I know we talked before. There's certain things you can't talk about. In some things I'll just say as statements, and you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong. Okay?
True or false?
True, false. Yeah, true, false. Yeah. Just again, I kind of want to get some of this out there because the mediation has been so.
Are Benjamin out here just to be bodyguard?
No. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Yes.
I like
yes.
that.
Yes. There is. There's
There's
an invisible
bodyguard.
fence right around. What's being mediated was clarified, I think, to a lot of people in the media and a lot of observers of this, give or take a month, 6 weeks ago, when the mayor came out in his weekly communication and said, what's being mediated, these are my words, not his, is not whether Memphis and May would stay in the park, it's how it stays in the park and how improvements to Tom Lee Park coexist with the Barbecue Fest and Beale Street Music Festival. That was news to a lot of us who follow this in the media, but clarified a lot because there were so many rumors in the kind of media blackout and the comment blackout of mediation that the real question was whether Memphis and May would ever stay there, and the mayor settled that those 6 weeks ago. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think what the mayor said is we're going to have a signature park, and Memphis and May will be in the park. So the park will accommodate Memphis and May. So I think making the point that those two things are not inconsistent. They can coexist.
Right. And he said that was always clear, and I challenged him, speaking of not answering my questions when he was on the show, but, you know, it's all good. The other one,
You
big
got
one
to
again,
it right at the end.
the other big one that comes up is will the road go from 4 lanes to 2 lanes? I think he came out and said it's going to stay 4 lanes for now.
He did, and we have been, you know, we've had a very friendly back and forth, just saying we continue to believe that the connection between downtown and the riverfront is so important that traffic moving at expressway speeds between those two is isolating. And so I think finding a solution, the road, as you may know, runs way under capacity, And so I think you can't look at any road. Roads are part of a system. You can't look at any road as isolated in a system. You have to look at what else is happening to other roads that through downtown. I mean, look, I was promoting downtown a long time ago. I was there when the first brick was laid on the mall, Mid-America Mall. So, like, I've been at this a long time. The last person who wants to do anything to hurt downtown is me. I own a home. I've been there 42 years, same location. So, I'm as big a downtown champion as you'll ever find. I love it. I don't want anything to harm downtown. But I do think if you look at what's happening around the country, in fact, around the world, you said it. People are really attracted to walkable communities. Millennials favor them. Baby boomers favor them. So how we take that and make that our own? How do we take that and make sure that businesses and destinations in downtown can thrive and are strong and getting stronger, but also that we are really making the kind of place that people want to be today. So it's a trick, right? I mean, it's a little tricky, but other cities have found solutions. And again, I'm just really can-do about Memphis. If everybody else can figure it out, I trust Memphis to figure it out.
Okay, a couple more quickish questions. Is there an aquarium happening as part of your plan?
The administration worked on an aquarium plan, and
But would that be part of the $60 million?
oh no,
Okay, that's what I wanted to say. So what's up there is the $60 million does not include an aquarium, because you do get people who are confused about that.
No.
It does happen.
No.
The other quick one was, why
I've got
not-
my hands full. I
What-
have aquariums to build.
Why not spend some of that $60 million, which is private money, public money, incentive money, the TDZ money, which is is a big process. Why not spend some or more of it on Mud Island, which is in need of, I think everyone you talked about it, is in need of a lot of repair and a lot of improvement. Why not spend more of that $60 million there?
It's a great question, and I get asked that a lot. Okay, so Mud Island was opened in 1982. It has $20 million of deferred maintenance. If we spent $20 million of deferred maintenance, we'd have a 1982 park. We deal with Mud Island every day. It's a real challenge. I mean, but literally, do you want to spend $20 million and have a 1982 park? If you go out there and look at the details, I mean, the grim details, right? The bathrooms and the things that aren't fun to look at. You'll see the way we got to 5,000 capacity in the amphitheater by putting bleachers. The fact that there is no lawn space. So everything was built to a 1982 standard. In fact, if you look at when it was designed, probably a 1970 something standard. So it's iconic. It lives really large in the imaginations of Memphis. I was at the Lyle Lovett concert Saturday evening and enjoying the music. It was beautiful. Although my lovely young colleague asked, who's Lyle Lovett? When I was telling his story in a staff meeting this week. Well, he's British too, so I guess he's got a pass. But it was interesting because Lyle, he's talking between songs and he starts telling this story. I remember that concert I did, and I thought, oh God, here we go, at Mud Island, and I was, and everybody has a story. The best concert I ever went to was X at Mud Island. So it really is large in the imagination. I think what ultimately we have to do with Mud Island is really take what is the most unique piece of real estate in Memphis, sitting out in the middle of the Mississippi River, and think what are those uses, and given the limited access, right, because it's limited access, it is, for the most part, destination, limited access, destination, property. What do you do with Mud Island that you can't do in downtown? Because in a lot of ways, what you want to do is you want to develop everything you can develop in downtown, because I can walk from your place, your restaurant that you're going to put on Front Street or on facing Wagner, whichever way or both ways. I can walk to Beale Street, then I can walk to something at the Orpheum, and I can go to the Majestic Grill. I saw Denny here. I mean, so what you want to do is have things that are, back to Gary's point, walkable. Mud Island is just a little bit out of, people are walking there, but it's a long walk. My dog is panting at the end. So if that's the case, then I think you have to change the way you think about Mud Island and say, again, what should go there in the middle of the Mississippi River? How cool. That really cannot go in downtown. And I think there are a range of uses. We need to think through those. We are thinking through those. We're always happy to hear ideas. But whatever move we make short term, I think needs to be a move that does not close off what may be sort of a larger, more exciting long-term move that we can make. So that's the rationale.
Thank you very much for coming. Our commercial real estate seminar is November 7th. We have seminars that happen next year. They'll be on the site soon.